Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to get started with our meeting tonight. Thank you all for coming. This is going to be a little bit different format than what we're used to for board meetings. We're going to try something different, and we'll get into an activity later with our mission statement. So be patient. This is something I've never tried before. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it'll work. And if it doesn't, we'll try something different later. But thank you again for coming. And now, Mr. President, if you want to start the meeting, okay.
We have a special meeting. So, Madam Secretary, well, I hereby call this special meeting to discuss the tax levy to order at 6:32 p.m. Madam Secretary, can you call the roll, please?
John Brenson.
Here.
Brendan Murphy. Peter Passerini.
Here.
Julie Belt. Here. John Russell.
Here.
Fred Stepstone.
Here.
And Lisa Brewster. Here.
Let's rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, do we have any public comments regarding the levy?
We do not.
All right. Action items. First reading of the property tax levy. Ms. Dr. Lind or Ms. Kraft? Let's take that.
Okay, so tonight we are not approving, I just want to be clear on this fact, we are not approving the levy tonight. This is a presentation. The board needs to take action to present it publicly. So this is the initial presentation of the levy for, well, it's for this tax year, but it'll be what we would pay in taxes next spring and fall. So this will be the next levy coming up. And Ms. Kraft, if you want to present, and I will try and manage the screen.
I have a question. Should I stand up here?
You can.
On the owl? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm at 3.
You're good.
Okay. So, what is displaying here is our tax levy presentation. So board members have provided a paper copy as well. We're not going to go through this word by word. It's more of virtually an educational document, especially if you're new to the levy. So we'll cover some of the pages in a little bit higher level and get into the formula as well. So I'm just going to kick off with this first page. The intent of this is something that you've heard many times. The bulk of our revenue comes from property taxes. We do not get a lot of state funding or federal funding. So hence here we are today, the tax levy. I think in the past we had a question about that gray area. What are local funds? Local revenue is made up of activity fees, registration fees, building rentals, interest, maybe some donations, things like that. And how are property taxes used? So that's a question we get sometimes. So as you may recall, this is the last year of our bond payment for the middle school. That's essentially like a mortgage. But for this fiscal year, and this pie actually was for last fiscal year, about a fourth goes to debt for the bond and the rest for operating funds. And the bulk of that is compensation and benefits. If we jump to the next page, this is just something that we're legally obligated to communicate. It's cash balances. I'm not going to really spend too much time here, but I provided cash balances amongst our 9 funds for different points in the year and explained why they're a little bit different. So you can come back and read that at your leisure. The next page is the property tax levy process. So we've been reviewing this in the last couple of board meetings. Basically, today we're going through the first reading of the levy. In the next board meeting, we'll seek approval from the board for what's called a truth and taxation statement. This is if we are asking for more than 5% of what we received from the levy last year. And then when we get into December, we'll hold a truth and taxation hearing and adopt the tax levy on December 11th, the only board meeting in December. The reason for that is because the levy needs to be filed with the county clerk by the last Tuesday in December. So the next 2 pages are basically more educational. They're vocabulary words, definitions, components of the levy calculation. I'm not going to go through these word by word. They're more of just a reference. And I should have noted that this document is posted to the district website under the business office page, along with a document called tax levy frequently asked questions that one of our board members last year had a number of levy questions coming out of the III conference. So we created another educational tool. And so that has been updated and posted to the district website as well. So again, for people listening in, all of these vocabulary words that you'll see on these next 2 pages can be found out on the district website. If we scroll down to the next page, the property tax levy components. So one of the questions that came up last year that's in this FAQ document was why do my taxes increase, and do we really have to take the maximum levy year after year? And so I just wanted to point out that the levy is actually a formula that's dictated by our county with caps from our county and our state. So it's not like it's just a number that we're pulling out of nowhere. There's actually a formula we're following, and we'll get to that formula in just a moment. But that formula takes these 5 items up at the top here: equalized assessed value, CPI, new construction, the previous year's tax extension. It takes that information to determine this year's tax levy. And so one other thing I'd like to point out on this page is PTEL. So that stands for Property Tax Extension Limitation. So we are in what's called a PTEL county. This means that it limits our extension to the increase to the lesser of 5% or the increase in the previous December's CPI. And then it creates a limiting tax rate. So we cannot tax more than that limiting tax rate across our 9 operating funds. So if we jump to the next page, this is the formula. If we were going to put it in table format and very high level, the top step is the data that feeds into the formula. So the estimated the estimated equalized assessed value and estimated new construction. That data comes from the county clerk every year. And then we look at last year's capped extension, what we received or what we were told we would receive, as well as looking at that December 2022 CPI, which was at 6.5%. So we take the lesser of that and 5% and bake it into our calculation. That 5% is multiplied against last year's levy. That's the amount our levy can increase. So that is, step 2. And then step 3, we determine the amount of the levy, taking out what the estimated new construction is, estimated from the county. And then step 4 is determining what the limiting rate is. So essentially what step 4 is doing is and Jason, you don't need to bump up to the next page, but it was that formula from the previous page that was talking about the PTEL limiting tax rate. That's what step 4 is calculating. So essentially that is what the district has to distribute the levy of, across the operating funds. Step 5 is taking that limiting rate, determining what the increase in the tax levy can be for new construction, and then adding it to the estimated levy without new construction. So when we add the estimated levy without new construction, the estimated levy with new construction, that's the total amount we can levy for this upcoming year. The percent of that is over 5%, it's 6.02%. So that means that we have to have a truth in taxation hearing in December, since we're going over the 5%. So I'll pause there because I kind of went through it kind of quickly. Again, if you wanted to go back and do the math, the table is there to show you the step of walking through how we get to that 6.02% and the exact dollar amount that we can levy for, which is just over $759,000. So any questions on the calculation? Okay. So if we can jump to the next page, the anticipated levy. So this is looking at our 9 operating funds. So education, buildings and grounds, transportation, special education. It's increasing across the board, or it's increasing those funds across the board at 6.02%. And you'll see in the next column in blue, the 4.7912, that's the PTEL living rate right there. This is what the levy would look like if we were just expecting to get the 6.02 increase. But what we do year after year is we balloon the levy. So we can go to the next slide. So we do something called ballooning, and essentially what this is doing is taking into consideration any new construction that the county may not have considered in their estimate of property value when they provided us with their numbers for the equalized assessed value. So we asked for a little bit more in this ballooned levy. It does not mean we're going to get it. In fact, we likely won't. It's just a catch-all so that we are able to collect property taxes on any new construction that was not provided in the county's estimate.
Can I point out one more thing with
Sure,
that?
sure.
Jump in, and then John has a question. on it.
So the county, they give us a number of what they think they anticipate new construction is based on, I assume, permits and stuff like that. They say, okay, this is gonna be the new construction, this is a new tax we're gonna take in.
Right.
What if they don't? Say someone's gonna build a mall and they didn't. Or has that ever happened? Do we give money back? What happens in that scenario?
No, it's actual at that point, because keep in mind that taxes, these are houses that are built and occupied. So you pay 2 years in the arrears for taxes. So these are occupancy from last year.
Okay, so it's new construction, but it's.
They just don't know the
it's already
time.
built.
Right, so we haven't hit December 31st yet. Or 30th, is it 31st, 30th? I don't know. The last day in December for
So
this
those
fiscal year.
numbers are accurate.
They will be actualized in the spring. They're an estimate now, based on what they have on the books today.
So that they don't pitch.
What I was also gonna say is the other reason to balloon, if you notice that percent increases are different. If it allows us to adjust in the spring a little bit between funds. So in the spring, if we see the transportation, for example, is running low, which we anticipate, we can shift the dollars around a little bit if we've ballooned enough to give us room to shift it in all these funds. It gives us flexibility in the spring, so we don't have to levy it all exactly the way we said we were going to, or in the fund we said we were going to, because we're anticipating for next year where we're gonna need the most money. So that's another reason why we balloon just a little bit, to give us a little bit of flexibility on pushing it into different funds, because we do the levy now. We have the hearing in December 11th, and then we send it to the county, and then in March-ish, they send it back to us and give us the final numbers, and they allow us to adjust. The big number doesn't change, the overall, but they allow us to adjust between funds one last time.
We always approve that as a board to move between funds, right?
The final,
No, actually, not when we're providing information or.
Not the-
on that levy.
no, you're signing off on the big number for the levy. I think what you're remembering is we do transfer of interest between funds.
That is what I was thinking.
Yes.
I just wanna avoid, okay, we charging all this money and oh, by the way, we can move it around without letting people know.
No.
Like, that anybody who might be listening might be like, hey,
No, and that's why it's
okay, but we're always showing.
absolutely. And that's why we max it or adjust it here. So these are the max rates that we could move around. For example, in the ed fund, our max rate for the spring would still be 6.84%, even though we're anticipating only getting 6.02. We couldn't go up to 9% in the ed fund, which would be a massive amount of money anyway, because the ed fund's the big one, but just as an example.
Additionally,
question.
every month when you get that treasurer's report, that's showing where each of these funds ends at the end of the given month. So I think that that would provide a little bit of transparency of where money is ending. But typically, like Dr. Linden mentioned, if we are going to do some sort of cross-fund transfer, we would do that through a resolution. What happens in the spring here, when, in that March timeframe, when this comes back, like last year, we ended up, maybe the last 2 years, we ended up not making any adjustment, because what I did with this table here, like transportation, you can see is over 18%. That's because I'm anticipating some additional transportation expenses for the 24-25 fiscal year already. So I'm trying to think ahead, or we're trying to think ahead of expenses for that fiscal year right here. If there are changes, they would be likely very minimal. You may wonder why life safety is at 0. Life safety is a fund where we are required to create I believe a 10-year life safety plan, and you can only levy for the amount of all the projects under that fund. We've already hit that maximum, I think, a year or 2 ago. So at this point, we're not able to levy anything more because we've collected everything and we've completed all of our projects. So with that, this is our recommended, this is the recommended balloon levy for the 2023 levy, which, as Dr. Lynn said, would be paid out in the spring and fall of 2024 for the fiscal 2025 school year. One other thing to note here, the bond and interest fell off. There is no more bond payment, and the CEDAL IMRF, which is the amount we are required to pay to CEDAL for retirement, has also decreased significantly. So the next page is basically just an example of what someone's tax bill might look like with the increase in the operating funds, but the decrease in the IMRF CEDAL levy and bond levy being put off. We just jump back up to that table, the balloons with recommendation. Are there any other questions on that? And I should note too, we'll have the next board meeting to go over any questions. If anyone has questions as they look through this document, feel free to reach out at any point. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
As soon as you are ready. No, we need to have a motion to approve the posting of,
I move to approve posting of the 2023 property tax levy.
Second.
Do we need a roll call? Okay, Madam Secretary, call the roll, please.
never hurts.
John Renton,
Yes.
Randy Murphy,
Yes.
Peter Petrino,
Yes.
Lillian Bell, yes, John Rubble,
Yes.
Brad Stetson,
Yes.
and Lisa Woodson, yes. Motion passed.
Now we can adjourn. Yeah, I need a motion to
I
adjourn.
move to adjourn the special meeting.
Second. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Roll call to order at 6:51. Millburn committee of the whole meeting for November 13th. Do we have any public comments? Do you have any additional information or discussion items? Board? No? All right, information and discussion, first reading of board policies review.
We will put these policies on for approval in December. That will give you a little extra time to read them. There are no major changes. It's just a review process, and you can look at them. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'd be happy to answer any before our next meeting, but we'll have 2 meetings to talk about them if we want to, and then approve them in December. This is part of the 5-year review 5-year review process. So every 5 years, we make sure we look at every policy.
All right, school maintenance project.
We are, hoping to apply for the school maintenance project grant, so there's another printout at your spots. Dr. Lynn, Tim Smith, the Director of Buildings and Grounds, and I have gone over a number of different places where we could potentially use this grant, which is a state grant that gives school districts up to $50,000 for larger projects. Where we landed was on 2 different flooring projects. So one is replacing the flooring in the East Gym. And the picture there is just a kind of like a close-up of the entire floor looks like. And then the other project is removing the remaining asbestos in the Seagull hallway here in the elementary building and replacing it with the gray, blue and red flooring that we see in the older part of the school here. Since we have no emergency projects at the moment, Dr. Lynn and I are recommending option 2. I worked with our architectural firm Rolls and our cooperative flooring company, Consolidated Flooring, to get estimates on the projects, as well as Midwest Environmental, who is the company we use for asbestos abatement. So at the start of this fiscal year, the district had just over $400,000 available in the capital projects fund. So again, this would be for bigger building projects or bigger building emergencies that pop up. It's been our past practice to keep about $200,000 in that fund for emergencies. Replacing the East Gym flooring, I had an estimated cost of $152,000. Both Wold and Consolidated Flooring recommended a flooring by a company called Mondo. It's a higher quality, kind of like a rubber flooring. It's unseen, so it's just one piece that goes over the existing flooring. It would last well over 20 years with minimal maintenance. The cost for abatement, on the other hand, would be about $70,000. And again, that estimate was provided by Midwest Environmental. It includes their project management and air quality testing as well. And to replace the flooring where the asbestos is just over $106,000. So that total project would be about $176,000, maybe a little bit more. Because with that, Midwest Environmental would have to bid for contractors to come through and remove the asbestos. So it's hard to get a really perfect estimate of what that abatement would be. But I would say between 176, maybe 186. So with that said, at the next board meeting, we'll be looking for approval from the board to move forward with the grant, because it needs to be submitted to ISB by December 1st, I think.
So a question about the gym flooring rollover. I've done carpeting over hardwood floor. I've done shingles on top of shingles, and always find it better to tear off the existing layer. Is there a reason why we're not tearing out the existing floor? Is it just cost, or is the new floor made to go on top of something? Or how's that?
Yeah, so the new floors were made to go on top of something. We're not recommending this option. I just wanted to provide a couple different options that we looked into. But both our architect and the flooring cooperative stated that this type of flooring is best to go over the existing flooring. So I think like if you were to rip off the existing flooring, it's going to be an uneven surface. And then you're going to have to figure out a way to smooth that down. So then the cost would definitely go up from 150 to remove it and start to work on any evening of the floor.
Carly, for number 2, is this it for the asbestos?
This is it.
This is
yes.
the last one, so this is that one hallway where we have to bring all the equipment up and all that.
Yeah,
That's what this, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
exactly. So when you say the equipment, I'm referring to the asbestos abatement machinery.
Yeah.
Yes, and so that's kind of why I just mentioned maybe throw in an additional $10,000 there. That did happen when we looked at removing the asbestos
Yeah.
a couple years ago. Some vendors did want to charge an extra amount and others did not. So you just never know who you get in the bid process of what their additional cost would be. But yes, it is exactly that hallway.
okay, thanks.
And that is it. There is no more asbestos under it. I do want to note though, that those floors, as ugly as they may be, it's the picture on the left, they're in great condition. And there is an asbestos, review that, Tim Smith is continuously doing throughout the year. They're in great shape, so there's no danger, no risk.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? And presentation.
All right, Mrs. Conicky's up.
I'm here tonight to talk about the main team and departments. I am Megan Conicki, this is my 19th year here at Millburn. I got second grade, third grade before joining the A team. I have been in this community for over 30 years. I'm a former student that I figured out really early on that the role models I had here that I wanted to become a teacher because of all of them. And I was the first recipient of the Betsy F. Memorial and Teaching Foundation Scholarship to continue to college. And at that time, in the late 80s and 90s, she was the only kindergarten teacher we had, and she was incredible. And we also have Julie Murray at the middle school teaching in an elective, and we are the 2 members of the team this year. So I always like to start with students, teachers, and parents. What is AIM? In many schools around here, we call it the GATE program or TAG program, Talented and Gifted. Here in Millburn, since 1982, we call it AIM, which is Appropriate Instruction at Middle. For any student, we want to provide them what they need in order to succeed and grow. And that is what our main focus is in the Gifted program. We want all of our children to grow. I wanted to start with a little slide about giftedness. There is a difference between a high achiever and gifted. So I wanted to focus on academics and social emotional, which are both things we work on in our program. Now, these are some traits. Some students might have some of these traits, all of these traits, or every student is different. So these are just some common traits. One thing is a sophisticated learner. Often children who are gifted have a high vocabulary from an early age, and they like that adult interaction because they can have conversations and build a vocabulary. With that comes exceptional reasoning. They can problem solve, they can do that all in their head. They have complex thought processes. They like to connect themselves to what's happening in the world. They connect things to text. Gifted students have an exceptional memory. They can tell you what I said on October 12th at 12:30 p.m. and probably remember exactly verbatim what I said. With that exceptional memory, they only might need a certain topic or standard covered 1 to 2 times, where another student might need repetitions of 7 to 10 times. That all leads to rapid learning rate. They can learn faster, so you can grow quicker and learn different topics. Creative problem solving is something we are really working on in our accelerated math programs here at the elementary building. We don't always just want to focus on skill and drill, adding fractions. We want to tie those into word problems, into problem solving, and into project-based learning. We want them to apply what they are learning and extend it. So social emotional is another aspect that we discussed in the meeting, especially in reading the committee. We work on making connections, text to text, text to self, text to the world. We want them to keep making those connections and becoming critical and self-aware. Sometimes synchronous, their development can be asynchronous. You might have a 3rd grader who is in a 3rd grade classroom, but has the cognitive ability or an IQ of a 5th grader. But then they might have the social emotional needs of a 1st grader. So that can be very hard when their IQ is up here, but they might need help with how to work with others or how to participate in all sorts of things. So that is really hard, and that is something that we work on. Just like any student, we have extroverts who are very outgoing, who like raising their hand, and we have introverts who do better in smaller groups and not sharing in front of large groups. We have students who are perfectionists who may be they get a 99% on the test, and that's not 100, and that is really hard. And we also have students who are underachievers, who aren't reaching their full potential, and we work on how we can work on that together. So now I'm going to focus, what is the purpose of gifted education? We are all here for one reason, and that is to meet the needs of our students. So my job, along with Judy, is to meet the abilities and needs of our gifted population so that they can continue to grow inside and outside of the classroom. With that, we want to appropriately challenge them. So I'm going to be focusing on the 3 main elements of gifted education, which is enrichment, acceleration, and then advanced curriculum. So our successful programming instruction is we are here to challenge our learners with that appropriate curriculum, with different strategies and a different pace. I don't always like to say a faster pace, because what I also want to do is go deeper. We think of an iceberg. Now, we don't want to just cover the top, but we want to go deep. We want to go have more discussion, have thorough analysis. With this, we are providing different content. We are looking for different products, and we are looking for open-ended tasks where it's not just the answer is A, but can they research, can they present, and can they continue to expand on their interests. With this, we talk about struggle and grit and supporting their abilities to take a risk. So I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Each child comes here to stretch and grow on a daily basis, and all children have the right to grow 1 year in school. So with this, my job is to support the teams, the students, the teachers, and the parents of the gifted program. This is something that we've created just to kind of go over a flow chart of the identification process. So what we do is we look at the total population, and then we have several screening assessments. We look at the media math test scores, not just one score, but historical averages as well. We look and talk to all the teachers. Sometimes I make classroom observations, and we look at an Otis Lennon score of about 120, which I'll go over that in a minute. Then in April, after spring break, I administered the COGAT, which is the cognitive abilities test, to that selected screening pool. And then in May, after I screened all the students, our AIM identification committee meets, and that is comprised of teachers, administrators, different staff members. So we have a variety of people from both buildings to look at all of that information. And we are looking for a COGAT score of about 130. We look at their math scores. I reach out to all parents, and they can fill out a checklist along with a narrative that I share. Then teachers have that same checklist and narrative, and then some work samples are provided as well. So the focus of our AIM classes, again, is to provide that 1 year progress. So with that, the AIM teachers and myself meet often so that we are meeting the needs of the students. Sometimes when they reach that accelerated math class, that is the first time a student has really struggled. And that is hard when for years things come really easy, and now all of a sudden something is hard. So we work on that grit and mindset, which I know a lot of teachers really focus on that growth mindset. Mrs. Murray and myself really encourage risk taking, to dive deeper into things, to go outside of your comfort zone. Sometimes kids take classes outside of Millburn or make connections from something they do to what we're doing. The main reason we're here is not just math or reading, but it's to have lifelong learners. I tell my kids every day that you guys are doctors, you're lawyers, you're gonna be my attorney, you're gonna be the president, that this is why we are here, to make sure that they take what we are learning and keep going. We also offer them social emotional support, that in those classes that we can talk about the different grades. We can talk about how they can talk and work together. We really work on if they need to listen more, maybe they need to hold back. But we have those conversations, and in December, that is something that all 3 reading classes of mine will be working on. And we're working on encouraging learning, perseverance, and growth of every student. The main programs at Millburn right now are bookworms here at the elementary in 1st and 2nd grade, and that is an enrichment program that I am teaching. It is 1 day a week during their smaller time, so they are still with their reading teachers or their homeroom teachers, but they get extra enrichment from me, where we are working on reading, writing, critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration. Next week, we're going to be doing balloons over Broadway, where students learn about the balloons and how they started with the Macy's Day, and then they're going to be creating their own balloons and activities and see how they work so it connects into STEM. And if anything doesn't work, we're going to work on what happened and how we can fix it together. In AIM, math and reading, it starts officially in 3rd grade. Students can qualify for math, reading, or both. At the middle school, it isn't elective, but they do on their AP day with Mrs. Murray. I always start the year with a parent meeting for all new students to AIM and their families to come so that I can go over a presentation, kind of meet the teachers, and I have different things to share with them. So that's how we always start that year. And then our accelerated math teachers here at the elementary this year made videos and sent it out to all those families so that they were aware of what their child would be learning in those accelerated math classes. So before we get to the screening, we would like to look at large groups. We like to look at every student. So one thing that we do with 2nd grade is a KOI. So this is an observation that I give to the teachers, and they are just informally observing their students, just walking around the room or part of math class, but it's looking for students with that advanced language, with that analytical thinking, with a sense of humor. Some students have senses of humor that can handle, different things, so we're kind of monitoring that. We're also looking for sensitivity. Are they sensitive to certain topics, and are they able to handle accelerated learning? So this is one of the large group screening activities that we do. We also do an activity in February called patterns. So I have certain patterns, like the beginning of a pattern, A, B, C, what would keep going. Then I give them a middle of the pattern. They have to tell me what came before and comes after. And then the last one is I give them the end of the pattern, and they have to tell me what comes before. So that is we're looking for the quantitative side, the mathematical side of students. Then I give them a drawings page, which are a bunch of kind of different scribbles. And we look for what students can turn. What can they turn that little squiggle into? A lot of kids turn that squiggle into a snake, but we've had kids turn them into dragons, or we've had them turn into volcanoes. So what do they see when they see that little squiggle? And sometimes they connect all of them into an elaborate picture, which is incredible when we see it. Another large group screening activity that we have continued in 2nd and 5th grade is the OSAP. This is again another way to screen a large group of students, and this is a nationally normed standardized test. It is generally only administered in the elementary grades, but it measures important critical thinking skills as higher order, analyze, synthesize, and it is broken down into these categories of verbal, comprehension, verbal reasoning, pictorial reasoning, and behavioral reasoning. So once we have that large group and we've narrowed it down to the students that based on those criteria that I will be assessing, this happens in about April after spring break, but before spring math testing. So it's a kind of very tight window. Then I administer the CODAP, which is the cognitive abilities test. So this is a true abilities test. It's not a standardized test. It is broken into 3 testing sessions. The first one on day 1 is a verbal. So it's based on reading, and everything I read is verbatim for each student. The second time that we meet is quantitative, focusing on math analogies. And the last one is nonverbal. So this is truly how do you think? This is paper folding. This is all those things that some students love it, some students it's not their favorite. On the next slide here, this is an example off the COGAT website of what it looks like for the non-verbal test. So it's called paper folded. So there is no way to study for this. This is truly how you think and who you are. So if you look at this, this is all they give you, and then you have to determine sometimes in 5 steps or in 10 steps, where will that paper fold be? So the answer is the last one. But this is an example, and this is of a 5th grade test. So there's also tests all the way up through high school. So I wanted to end with the most important slide, in my opinion, from the kids. So these are statements from the kids in my class. I get to be with friends, and I love learning because it gives me an opportunity to grow. I want to be challenged. Math is fun because we play games, and I like solving math problems. I wouldn't have this without accelerated math. I love writing stories, and I'd be sad without being reading. I want the challenge of the class. And this is probably one of my favorites. I can do things I once thought I couldn't. I believe in myself more. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Megan. Very nice. Appreciate all the work you do, and that was a great presentation.
You get a kid in that, do you ever go out of that?
Most of the time, no, it's unless there's ever a time that they're really struggling, and I'll use a couple times maybe with math. But no, once they're in, we stay in and communicating, doing we email a lot, and then on our own basis, we meet in person, so I go over there. So once they're in the program, unless there's a problem, they're in the program throughout. So,
These prices up there already. Have anything to do with that?
they go on the report card.
It's not a separate category and doesn't show up anyplace. However, it does show up in parent feedback. So I've heard of parents, and I'm sure you have too, Megan, in administration, that parents move into our district because of our gifted programming, because many schools in our area don't have gifted programming, at least not as robust as ours. So that's a testament to that program. It's got a great reputation, and we support the kids very well.
I would assume it helps with our quotes. Challenge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great point too. Yeah, because we're measured on growth. So we want every kid to grow, and to keep those high-end kids growing, the kids who are scoring that high, to keep them growing is sometimes more of a challenge.
And then you have
That's a
like
good
a
point.
counterpart with the high school where they continue on after they're out of that.
Since we've seen so many, they're a little bit different, but the math tracks stay the same. There's a lot of more different math. And we go to late school, there's a discussion there about those accelerated kids, but then the reading, again, they just keep saying that they're sending them prepared for writing, or, like, Julie works on debating with them in the middle school and helping projects to get them excited with things and having done deeper. So all those elements, I think, really help them in the high school, because then they're ready for those, not just, and that's the comprehension tests, but I'm able to apply what we learned and really that discussion, which is huge. We have a lot of discussions. We also work on, you can disagree with me, and we work on how we can say that in a respectful and kind manner, that I disagree with you because, but again, I'm backing it with something from the text or from my experience. So those conversations lead to writing, which leads to speaking. Those all.
And with the social emotional part, like you said, something that the ability of the third grade is social emotional for a kid. Would that keep them out of the program, or do we find a way to keep them in it?
We keep them in it and we just work together. And again, it's working on what they might need help more working with peers, or how to, a lot of times students want to work on their own. And so again, that's working on how can I work with my peer? How can I share my ideas? That work of maybe my ideas different than your idea, but that's it. So we just work together, and in December, that's what we're going to be working on. So more of 5th grade, I'm going to be getting into the actual brain and what the brain is like, and then each year, and then 4th grade, I'll do a little bit less of that, how we work together, and the characteristics that we have. I use this book to give to Kid Survival Guide, so I use different elements of that, and then we read it and discuss it together as groups. So 3rd grade is kind of introducing it, but 5th grade, where we're analyzing and having discussions, talking about the brain hemispheres. So it gets just a little bit deeper as we get older.
I have a question. Like, is it a piecemeal program or is it something where this is what we're doing no matter what? I mean, because like you said, there's some people that score higher on one part of the test, say verbal, and cognitive, they're a little lower. I mean, is the system tailored to their abilities or?
So with the COGAP test,
Yeah,
so you can have you're gonna have a verbal score, a quantitative score, and then a non-verbal score.
Right.
So what I do then is I add those all up and I divide by 3,
okay,
and that gives me a composite. So that 130 is the composite score that we are looking for here.
okay,
So when I present to the game committee, is when we're looking at reading, I put reading and non-verbal, which is that thinking, so that paper folding. And that comes to get to a 1 score, and then I do quantitative and non-verbal, that's another score. So there's a lot of scores on the sheet that we look at.
okay,
But then that student who, like you said, might have a discrepancy, that maybe they qualify for reading, but they don't qualify for math.
yeah,
But then we also still, like at Mr. Wilshire in May, and we look at kids' historical averages on the math testing, and if students have a historical average of 90% or higher, they can qualify for the accelerated, which there's still 1 class.
Okay.
So we don't call it a math, we just call it accelerated math, because we are great accelerating those students.
Okay.
But then in readers with me, we just, like, I enrich, but I also work on standards that are usually a grade above, and focusing on that academic and social studies.
but if say they have a low math score and a high reading score,
Then they can qualify for reading, yeah.
okay, so, but it would just be reading, it wouldn't be.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thanks, Mrs. Konecki.
Mission statement exercise.
Okay.
Excited for this.
We're very excited for this. So this is where we're going to diverge from the norm significantly. Let me just go over how we're going to try to do this. I will briefly have welcome and introductions of a communications exercise, purpose of the mission statement, and we'll get into what that looks like more specifically. So what I would like to do is invite everybody to come up, and I'd like to have 4 people at each of these tables. So you guys can stay put. We got 2 more chairs here. There you go.
Yes. We're the goofballs, so come join us. You don't bite?
Oh, and another, yeah.
Down in my office.
Yeah, yeah. Was it really?
Yes.
You stand over, they cut it. Yeah, yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, agree.
That's only 3. I'm a math teacher. Oh, I didn't know that.
That's all right. Okay, so let's go around the room so we know who's here. What not everyone knows each other. So let's start with Mr. Jordan.
Hi, everybody. I am Jake Jorgensen. I'm the principal at the middle school, and I'm going to pass to my right.
I'm Courtney Stacy, I'm the assistant principal at Millburn. I'm Veronica Collins, the executive administrative assistant for the district.
I'm Megan Thomas, the facilitator today.
Carrie Gadville, assistant principal at elementary school.
John Rose, Director of Social Services. I'm John Rose. I'm a board member. I have 2 kids, one in middle school, one in elementary.
Lisa Rooster, also a board member, and I have a third board.
Lisa Jackson, I'm the third.
Brendan Murphy, I'm school board.
Member for activities manager.
I'm Kirsten Macias, I'm one of the elementary school topics.
I'm Suzanne DeCoursey, I'm Tech Integration Media Specialist and Union President.
I'm John Lorenzen. I am the school board president, and I have a 7th grader and a 1st grader.
Peter Pederini, School Board Vice President.
Ben Walshire.
Jillian Phelps, board member, and I also have a second member, school board.
Adam Linden, 6th grade.
Yes.
Fred Castro, board member, parent of a kindergarten, class, and the second grade.
Welcome. Great. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do to get started, just get our brains flowing a little bit as far as communication with our groups. Does everybody have a piece of paper? Don't need a pencil at this point. Everybody take one piece of paper, and Ms. Collins is gonna lead us in a communications exercise. So Ms. Collins, take it away.
Some of you guys haven't seen me since I was voting, right? So the purpose of this activity is to demonstrate that people interpret the same information differently. Effective communication strategies can help build strong working relationships. We all know that, but when we talk about communication skills, we're not just referring to what we say, but also how we listen. Effective communication combines two major elements, active listening and creating a clear message. How do we know if the messages we are sending are being received and interpreted in the way we intended? Those all create the same object using the same paper with the exact same set of instructions. Everybody ready? Okay.
Right.
Hold up your piece of paper. Now, close your eyes. Don't eat.
Close your eyes.
Close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes. Don't eat. Ready? I will give you a set of instructions, but I will not repeat each step. Okay? Fold your sheet of paper in hand. Keep your eyes closed. Tear off the upper right corner. Everyone close. Fold your paper in half again. Now tear off the lower right corner. Fold your paper in half. Tear off the upper left corner. Fold your paper in half a final time. Tear off the lower left corner. Keep your eyes closed. Unfold your paper. And fold it up. Open your eyes, look at your product and compare it with the other team members.
Yeah.
Very symmetrical. Someone also listened. That is impressive. Gifted. Gifted.
I'm thinking that.
Top 1%.
No, go teams.
So the point of that exercise, obviously, is that we can all get the same materials. We can all get the same instructions, but the outcomes don't always match up. So communicating clearly and often is important for all of us, and to get clarification if we don't understand. So going into tonight's mission statement exercise, what our intentions are for tonight is to review and develop a mission statement for our district. So we will commence with that step. And just as a reminder, whoops, of what this mission statement is, why we do a mission statement, it's really the purpose and the foundation for all of the decisions that are made. A working definition, we can sometimes get a little bit confused about what a mission statement is. It is the why do we exist, fundamental purpose, and it clarifies and sharpens priorities for our district, for all activities. So that's the purpose of this mission statement. Some of you teachers in the room may have seen this diagram before. It's in our Rick DeFore book on PLCs. But this is the mission, and then we're going to move into vision and values, not tonight, but in the future. And that's the what. And then when we get into the how, this is board work and community work. And when we get into the how, that's staff work. They hand it off to us, and then we say, okay, this is what we want. This is our purpose. Let's clarify that. Let's be as clear as possible. Now let's hand it off to you, staff. How we're going to get it done. So this is the first step. Here's where we're at, just to review that. And if you've done a lot of mission statement work before, I'm sorry, that's might be repetitive for you, but finding out in working with other organizations, this and this get mixed up a lot. So I just want to clarify what we're doing with that tonight first. So here's how we're going to start tonight on your own. I'm going to pass out some paper here. Sorry. Going to take one and pass it down this side, and take one, pass it down that side. What you're going to start off, one per person. As an individual saying, Millburn exists because. Like your own mission statement. Mission statements should be about 7 to 10 words after Millburn exists. You won't count those two.
And we don't count like contractions or,
You-
articles.
Articles. You don't have to, it's not a rule, this isn't about being specific, but the idea is you want to keep it short enough to be able to remember.
What's your name?
Millburn exists too.
This one's like kind of honestly out, but I can still.
Jason,
Done.
Can we decide whether changing our mission statement?
If you don't want to change your mission statement, now's your opportunity to write our current mission statement.
I'm just asking if we decide.
We decided to do this.
I know we have extension, it's all.
Here, it's right here. Sorry.
So everybody love it.
So if everybody writes down our current mission statement, we can get.
Something about.
Write it in the top one where it says where the number one is. This is on your own. You're gonna write your own mission statement.
My son's just like.
That one
Yeah.
reflects the right one. That one.
Yeah. That's
If you're looking for inspiration, there's some samples on the board here to get started. So if you love any of these don't necessarily all follow the rules of 7 to 10 words either, but somewhere to get started.
You have that?
Or you can use our mission statement too, which is on the top of the agenda. If you're
See you guys.
We sure depends. 2015.
Okay, that was the last. Then, yeah.
Jason's really good.
I went over it since the last meeting. And it's really crazy. So then there's a few that there are parts in there that. Still see yeah, spread us out. No. We're gonna like it.
Okay, looks like, good portion of people are finished. If you're not finished, that's okay. What you're gonna do now is you're gonna work with someone else at your table, so pick a table mate.
Your
Twos, your health partner.
Sorry. We got done?
No, we're done.
We're done.
Like was saying now.
Bro.
This works. That's all it works. You're like the Sky Valley.
Learning, we got one.
I like.
Right. You have to. Right. You don't want Correct. Yes. Thanks. And I like that.
It's gonna go quick.
I heard the same thing you guys.
Behind arrow.
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
We have this part right here.
The big difference I think they have.
Yeah. Yes.
We're not just talking about.
Or.
Right.
Like there's multiple ways.
I mean,
Yeah. And whatever we have there. Yeah. Team up with another team. Share their resumes. No, I wasn't. I was maybe seeing just before. There was a vacancy there.
We had the natural one.
I would have broken that. Was that by choice or was that a doctor?
It's like
I
I'm going on a
can't do
24-hour
that.
fast.
I didn't do that stuff. Just, I get too stressed and I don't drink coffee. Oh, that's a bad.
Usually say there was a cafeteria at night, 6 to 9 o'clock at night.
She's taking a lot of that.
And that was interesting.
Building.
No, we have.
Yeah.
That was really like starting from scratch. We didn't.
Some of us,
That's when we started to do that.
So when you ask. for it, that's just-
just wasn't much.
Learn.
I feel like it's with the industry, it's like the last 20 years or so, has been really driven by, because you see it, you know, all over the place now. Yeah. No, I know. They wanted it. So I don't know about the others too, right?
Well, and we know Jillian likes it.
Jilly's.
Don't screw it up.
Gotta go back to the letters.
Yeah.
You gotta go back to the beginning of this.
I just. No, Aaron, talk about Mario right now. Those words for that. The word. Yes.
Yeah, they put a carrot.
Not yet.
Wait, next one to prison. They just pull all those signs down. All of the trolleys.
Oops.
Okay, we're ready. Looks like we're ready for our next step. This is where it all falls apart. Okay, so our next step is at your table. Your table has to come up with one mission statement. But here's the deal. Definition of consensus. Keep this in mind. So we don't have to agree on every word, but we have to make sure that each of us feel like we've been heard and understood. I have heard and understand. I can live with it, and I can publicly support it. So can you publicly support the mission statement when it's whatever your table creates? That's what we need to get to consensus. Does that make sense? All right, ready? Go, tables.
We good? Heard you.
I know. Maybe.
And then we went past community groups and she was kind of like, because we are,
Yeah.
You can, I did have one word that I.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That's when I live in, that's when I sign my name next to it. But you can see that. And they might.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. They use that app.
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely like.
One second.
Outside.
Strength of post factory session. It's investigations, you know.
Learners. Oh, right.
Our own
Natural.
own neighborhood. Here we go. Make up way in sight. Educating. Fosters.
Now we change.
Strengthens learners to power.
Yeah, baby.
So that's option two.
I agree, and I think that's why.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah. Like for example, enormous shit in education. Then little changes, right? I yeah, that's jacked of the world, that's for
Did he just tell you guys to don't invite people to show up?
And a better, you know, your own perfect union, you know, we recognize our boundaries. What's the process?
All of our friends to me, because I'm like, we had our Tuesday meeting, and it's like, I have all these ideas, I'm like, fine, just do what you want to do. Go for it.
And I see sometimes that's why.
So if this crashes.
I mean, I'm not saying. But just.
I know.
Yeah. Like it's unity.
Let's keep the idea.
Yeah. So But then private. So. It ends with.
Oh. Yes. I really like the analysis. That's all. Visual state. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, he was.
You know.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Right.
So the three groups that are done, these three groups, why don't you pick up your stuff and come back?
Well, that's
Hear what they So each group.
We're trying to figure out.
What did I? What? No.
To achieve the academic, maximize academic. I can do. I know, I can.
Yeah.
Some people.
I know. Are you gonna be more along the lines of that? I don't know.
That's, it's a.
And manifest a better word.
Learn out and start with the diverse mindset.
To create the environment
There's a lot in the world.
I don't need
Probably trees.
and manifest a better future with them. I would have manifest a better future with them.
It's not slowing rate. I think the.
Yeah, and creating an environment where manifest in our future. Things for, with our community, showing the support, so it's in a way that,
There's, I guess, the consensus.
Very exciting.
Oh my God.
I know.
Get ready to sign on, yeah. It's really probably getting a bigger one.
Okay, here's.
Why are we holding everything up?
I think we kind of.
No, maybe you'll. Okay, so we're gonna get together as a big group now, and three, right, you don't have to move. No more. We're down to three-ish statements right now. Okay? So we'll start with the three statements that we've got. And then we're gonna get down, see if we can get close to one. We don't have to finish exactly tonight. If we wanna have a few people sidebar to wordsmith it and kind of get the major thoughts. If we can't get to that point tonight, great. If not, that's okay. We'll figure out another time, but I think we can do it. Okay, so why doesn't this group go and figure out your statement and then some of the ideas, what you're trying to catch?
awesome. So we have Millburn exists to create an environment where lifelong learners manifest a better future with our community. So, the keywords in there, we have environment, showing that, Millburn District is more than just a school, it's more than just a classroom, more than just a teacher. It involves everything, you know, the feelings people have, the assets other people bring to the table, you know, using environment is kind of, you know, a universal term for everything. Lifelong learners, we felt was appropriate because we don't want them to just get out of 8th grade and be done. We don't want them to just get out of high school or college and be done. We want them to develop those critical thinking skills, the ability to constantly want to learn and be reading something for the purpose of learning or whatnot. We chose the word manifest in there, kind of, you know, American manifest destiny, yada, yada, but as a way to kind of embody that and empower the students that they have an active role in it, and we have an active role in their success here. A better future, again, going with, you know, in order to form a more perfect union, we understand that it's a process. And, you know, there is no perfect and there'll never be a best, there'll always be ways to improve. And we always should be looking forward by forming a better future we have now. And then, with our community, originally we had within our community. But then that just seemed too centric to our local area. We want them to be global citizens, essentially, but with the assets of our entire community, with, you know, the green space that we have here that a lot of schools don't have, with the people who have been students here themselves and are now teachers here. And so really utilizing all the aspects of it. So environment, lifelong learners, manifest, better future. And care.
Can you read it one more time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Millburn exists to create an environment where lifelong learners manifest a better future with our community.
Very good. Thank you. Good work, Mark. Let's have this group read theirs out and then give us the thoughts.
You wanna read it?
Certainly,
Okay.
if I can read your writing.
Oh,
Millburn exists to create a culture of learning. No, wait, that's.
that one.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Number 4, create a culture of learning that inspires and empowers all students to overcome obstacles and achieve academically.
Achievement, obstacles, grit.
And-
Culture.
We want to create an environment, but the focus, and I gotta tell you, I was saying for me, I know a lot of us agree with it, but, I want to focus on educating our children. Quite honestly, I don't think the mission is to create a global citizen. I'm just gonna say it out loud. I think our mission here is to instruct our children, to teach them how to live in it. I'm not even sure critical thinking can happen in elementary school. Maybe I'm selling you short. Before you know 2 + 2, and for me, and that's why, what I added to our group, is I want our focus to be on academics. I just do. I don't ever want that not to be our mission. If we have other things that we want to do, that can be part of our culture. But our mission for me and a school is to educate our children academically first and foremost. But that's why we also incorporated a culture, because these things that I know you were talking about, making sure we want to put the word all students, make sure it's all students, not just some. And to create a culture where we're not actually people probably.
Oh, yeah, we just had a good discussion. Academically, but. But we were kind of stuck on that word.
Can you read yours one more time? Millburn exists to create a culture of learning that inspires and empowers all students to overcome obstacles and achieve academically. We basically took the start of our current mission statement and then added the word all in front of student. And then just attacked the obstacles and the academics.
Thank you. Final third group back there.
Millburn exists to create a culture and community of learners that inspires a diverse mindset and empowers students to enrich our world.
Read that again.
Yes. Millburn exists to create a culture and community of learners that inspires a diverse mindset and empowers students to enrich our world. Kind of like that growth mindset, maybe we have to think about that every single day. Diversity. Diverse mindset encompasses a lot of different things.
In the world globally, these guys exist in a different world than we exist in, but we grew up in. So more of their effort is global now. They have more tools to affect global change, things of that nature.
And to empower the students, to try to give them the control, be in charge of their own. bring that change and people with their, where they go forward.
I think to the reverse mindset goes back to having your presentation where students do things very differently. It's quite possible that no matter what grade they're in, they're thinking and approaching the world differently.
Everyone's type of intelligence, it's not just academic. Social intelligence, emotional intelligence, we need to educate that in whole child.
You know, that's my, as a middle school person, who's 21 years here, and 65 years that, that's where we're falling behind. It's like the education, and I agree, right? Like, I'm a teacher first and foremost, and I have a curriculum and teach my curriculum, and that's my job, and every one of the teachers in here, that's our job. I think with the world that we're living in today, like you're saying, these kids are facing things, looking at life that we've never. The part that's I feel has gotten away is the person, the social, like we're not. Like I'm still teaching academics, but it's I tell my kids every day, are you a good person? Are you doing the things to be a good person? You know, like they don't know how to sit down and even do what we're doing. Like if they can't have a conversation one-on-one with another human being, they struggle to do that. And so it's, you know, I totally agree, you know, obviously the educated we're a school we're teaching, but I think we've gone away from, I mean, I guess I see it in middle school, I don't know, but are we raising good people that we want to be? Yeah, I mean, is that what this community is? Is that what we want to raise? So,
The kids are more than a test.
yeah. Yeah. And we're all gonna teach the stuff that goes through that, like that's, yeah, you know, I curriculum following, but like, what are the other things in there when something minor happens in class, and how do the kids react to that? How do they, you know, the problems that you look on the playground, the recess, the cafeteria, and doing stuff that are so easy that, like, for us when we were younger, it was just natural, that that's just the good people, I guess.
And that are considered learning,
But
because if they
I
don't
would
feel
say
about everything, but they don't have that, they
Correct.
don't learn. That's why I like that added piece of, before we had culture, but we have culture and community of learning. And so we have this community of learners and community working together to get to that point, because they're not gonna be able to do algebra if they just got in a fight and they didn't know how to resolve it during themselves. I don't care how good our culture. In a community of learning, it's not just, we have things within our elementary curriculum with book buddies, with the kindergartners and the older kids. But another part of our community is we do the bus with the fifth graders, with kindergarten. And it's such a neat part of our community that we see those fifth graders taking those little kids, those fifth grade boys walking the kindergarten side and hands, and they take pride in it, and they tell them, have a good day. And that's, I think, that thing that everybody was, that Morning Hope and Millburn thing, that, you know, we all are so proud of. But they see them 3 hours later and say hi to them, you know, one high five. And it's that community of learning, how to get to the classroom, it's taking care of others.
I was on a committee meeting today, and we have to open up, just asking for the school. And they're probably 13 of the 15, no reason to do that. It was that sense of that educator. Always report back. And they're always, they're represented to, you know, representative in the AP classes, in the honors classes. Because we build a culture of community, that's it's not just teaching, the skills, but it's building the community so that it's cool to know the skills that if I don't have them down pat in the work program, but I wanna learn something, I got that work mindset that I can learn. So I think it's, we need to do that good action. We have to, get a community of learning. That's what it comes to.
I do think that word community is, like, after thinking about this a little bit more, like, we all don't live in the community, but many of us do. And we moved here for a reason. And I think something that's unique about Millburn that is not captured in any surrounding schools is we have one elementary and one middle school. So you really can do whatever you need to do to build that sense of community, because you're not trying to balance it with 3 other elementary schools to make sure they're doing the same things. And so to capitalize on that word, I think is a big part of who Millburn is.
So we've got to get down to what?
It takes companies 6 months to buy, a quarter to come up with a mission statement for a company.
I know, millions of dollars, so.
And we're gonna do this in an hour?
Is there a bonus if
We
it's
don't
done
have
by
money.
15?
And we all agree that Millburn exists too.
I think we all can agree to the word community being a part of
Mhm.
Educate.
So, Frank, can you read yours again and see if it captures the academic piece enough?
Yeah, and yeah, I totally get academic achievement and, you know, some of it, I view as like, we're a school, so of course, but like, that's part of the point of us, so. We're trying to set ourselves apart from the other schools, like what makes us better, why are we doing, so. Create an environment where lifelong learners manifest a better future with our community, so the lifelong learner aspect is something we brought in there. The academic component, where it's not just take that one test and forget it, you know, we provide them with the skills to constantly be critical of, oh, is this car salesman trying to bamboozle me, or is this really the best, contractor price for my new roof? You know, teach them how to do research essentially with our partner. So, you know, you hear a criticism, oh, in school, they never taught me how to do taxes. Well, tax codes change every year. We teach you math and how to read, and that will empower you to do taxes. Or to get a job, we can pay an accountant to do that.
I like a lot of it too. I just don't wanna confuse our mission with our visions and our tactics. Strategy is different than tactics. I mean, our mission, if I'm moving to our community from Idaho, wherever, and I see a mission statement saying, we want the best kids, the highest academic achievement. And then I look at, we have a bunch of life learners, global citizens. I'm moving to decisive. Again, that's me. I'm not even looking at decisive. If they don't mention, what do we talk about every board meeting? Our test score. So while I agree, and I know I'm not speaking for just myself, because I talked to a number of people about it. While I agree, I think we do need to talk about community. We need a culture of, we need kids. I think taking our kids out of saying this before, taking our kids out of school for 2 years, we're not gonna know the damage we've done to them socially, for a generation. So, yes, how we go about that, I think it is a community. I love the, you know, words, community, culture and all this. But I think our mission is to have educated students. Because if they don't know how to read and write going into high school, but their buddies, I don't know that that serves them any good. So our mission is, as a school, as someone who's paying taxes to our school, is to make sure when our kids get out of 8th grade, and maybe the missions are different from elementary, middle school, kids are different. And I feel like I'm pushing this harder than most, but I wanna make sure my kids have academic excellence. And that's what Millburn should be known for, at least partially, in our mission. We're gonna produce kids who not only can get along with each other, or who, get along together socially and in our community. But they're gonna, when they go to Lakes, they're gonna be at the top of the class. That's what I care about.
So John, are you saying you really like the word academics, or you're?
I think
you're
we're
trying
missing
to
that.
learn, like, the one that we had over here was active learning. So is it the word academics that you really like, or is it that?
That still has its academic something.
Because
we're-
learning could encompass that as well as other things.
That's same with lifelong learning.
Yeah.
I agree.
Empowering
I think
Giving them
for
the
me,
skills to be
but
empowered.
again, this is for me. Saying you're a learner is too bad.
And I think saying academics is too specific, because we've got those other areas in our strategies and everything else that we're gonna do to encompass, because that's what they're doing, they're learning more than just math and science.
Isn't it the how we teach? It's not that we teach academics. Like, nobody's going into high school. Like, when our kids go to high school and they're the top students in high school, it's not because they know about ancient Mesopotamia and they're like smart and know that. It's not that they know how to do basic math in second grade. It's how they're being taught this it's the how that's causing our students to be higher than other students. Everybody in every school is getting taught the same stuff, but what makes Millburn different is how we're teaching. It's our.
They're understanding the why.
Yeah.
But you and I are probably the same thing, and I'm just misunderstanding, because I don't think how is your mission statement.
Right.
I think what your goal is your mission
But I
statement.
think the
And
academics
the
are just.
how is these other things you talk about with vision and drilling down and all that. So we could probably be saying the same thing. Your mission statement doesn't tell you how you're gonna get somewhere, right? Your mission statement is your objective, what you want, what your mission is. And maybe that's what I'm getting.
Why, it's your why. Why you're doing the academics, why are you?
Culture of learning,
Yeah.
and community. Learning and community.
Then
There's two things here.
I'm completely misunderstanding the mission, because then I'm just gonna be built the military. If someone says, here's your mission, the soldier doesn't say why. He says, I'm gonna get it done. So when I think of a mission, this is what our goal and objective is. And again, we could be saying the exact same thing, we're just getting caught up on words.
And I view like the academically, that is an implied premise within the word school. You know, like we're a school, of course, but yeah, you know, I just take that as a given. Using one of our 7 to 10 words, you know.
But academic doesn't encompass everything that a school does for the holistic student. We're really wanting to look in this day and age, the whole student. It's not just about academics. Like, we love that they know how to read and write, but what else can they do? Can they analyze? Can they have a discussion? Can they talk with confidence? Like, that's being taught in classrooms that we just don't see. The teachers see it, which is absolutely fantastic, but when they go out and have that first job at, McDonald's, they're gonna have those already foundational skills within them that they may have learned within those classrooms that we just don't. I think the lifelong learning or learning it encompasses the academic component. Like,
I agree with you to a point, because I had no problem with it. But it should be reviewed. But I went back and looked up what people do for a mission statement, saying they pay them thousands, millions of dollars for a mission statement. That's not what I researched, but I think we're saying the same things. I'm getting caught up on an actual mission statement.
So let's see if I can back this up. To the why. So academic, why do we teach academics?
So they know to educate students. So they know-
Basic skills.
the work, to make the world a better place.
Why do we want to make the world a better place?
Better quality of life.
Sometimes it's not such a great place. It needs to be improved.
So that's what I think. So if you go back to the why of the mission statement. The mission is not the objective. you're thinking military terms, you have a mission that's a specific task. No, this is goal and objective. This is not, this is the purpose here. So when I explained it up on the board, it was, why are we doing it? So I think we're all talking kind of around the same thing, but getting to the why. And I agree with the academics portion, and I'll put in my 2 cents. We do exist for the academic purpose. It's a school, and I've said this many times from staff. We're not just creating best buddies. If we have best buddies who don't know how to read and write, that's not going to help us down the road. But we also know that they're not going to learn and be comfortable if they don't have those relationships. They don't care what Mr. Lemon says until they know that Mr. Lemon cares about them and who they are as people. That's all of us. So in order for them to have influence in the world, which is what we want, that's the why. I want them to be strong academically because I want them to go out and have influence in the world all the way through college, whatever degree they get. No matter if they go into, they're going into the math and sciences to be professors and doctorates, great. If they're not, if they're going to school to be communications major, or if they're going to school to be a teacher, if they're going to school to be going to the trades, it doesn't matter to me. They have to have that much academics for whatever level that is. That's a wide swath. But they also have to be able to, I think what Adam was saying is, they have to be able to interact with people. Have an influence. You just have to, they have to be able to communicate their thoughts in writing. They have to understand a certain level of math, all of it. That's where I think. I agree that, yeah, we're not just here to create friends.
Yeah, and I agree. If you talk to anybody, especially in middle school, they're not going to school for math class. They're going to school for the 24-hour challenge, for Kimberly, for Ron and whatever. So I totally agree with what you're saying. So we could be saying the same thing, just a matter of getting on paper, because I actually think, and if you ask people, I grew up in Antioch, I know all about Millburn, those kids. I think we do an incredible job of creating that culture. I think it's already gets created and passing on. Even transitioning our kids from elementary school to middle school within, I tell people this all the time, within the first 6 months, we did a 24-hour challenge in Timberley. They've got 100 friends 2 weeks into a brand new school, and it's fantastic. And that's what we promote. I think we're doing a great job of that, but putting pen to paper, if we're gonna change something, I just thought. For me, I just wanna make sure that we continue to focus on academics, but I see the culture, I mean, I'm in it.
I think we can work on this. Fred, what would your statement look like if you included the word academic into it? Because I think what you've said and what I've heard is we kind of assume academics is included in that. What if we just outright state it?
Yeah, so I would, to create an academic environment where lifelong learners manifest a better future. Love it.
But then if that's, then we're only creating an academic
I
environment.
know that we need to create all kinds of work.
Can I get it to?
No, because like when you had that, you said, like, no. What did you say?
They also have, so they also have to create they have a culture, we also have
Yeah.
culture.
They have community of learners.
It's a culture.
When you say culture, that's what I think of as like the community. You're building that culture where everyone feels, wanted.
And I think it's important to keep all students because, we are, like it or not, we're known for our special needs programs, just, and it's one of the reasons justified at tax. So we do want to bring all the students along. I feel like it should be, maybe just put them all in.
So if you put it all in, if you put,
Create a
take out,
diverse, I'm like, you go. Get all your buzzwords down.
Yeah, I mean, what are the buzzwords that you?
the lifelong learners, with community of learners, would you be okay if we use lifelong? Community, so if you replace lifelong with community, would that work? Where are we at?
Lifelong learners, we have community again as the last word, is I'm okay with using the word community twice in a sentence.
Yeah.
Wasted.
So
Your man.
It's not.
Can you guys see everyone yet?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Nice. Loud and proud. Yes. All right, all right. Millburn exists to create a culture and community of learners that inspires a diverse mindset and empowers students to enrich our. I'm sorry, I like the diverse word in there because we're talking about different levels of learners. And I do like the growth mindset because I think that is what we're trying to teach in kids, that there's not just one way, there's different ways of thinking, there's different ways of approaching things. So those are the buzzwords.
What if we had, instead of our students, all,
Go for it, right?
so that to finish it out with empower all students to enrich our world?
Yes, sure.
All right, so create a diverse academic environment, with a culture of where a community of learners manifest a better future to enrich our world.
Can you help me understand that?
Way too wordy.
So it's like, it's more than just meditating, like I'm manifesting, so, okay, I'm gonna manifest happiness by thinking about happiness, but to manifest it, like you see a goal, think of it as you have a goal and you want to achieve that goal. And so what's the steps you are going to take actively to pursue that goal? It's not just, I'm floating down the river and maybe I'll get to, I'll get to the pier, but how are you gonna steer your raft? And that's how you manifest into it.
So I'm also looking at this from all angles, and this is something that every parent, every student, every employee, every board member, new, old, are going to have to understand. And they're not gonna always have time for a 30-second elevator pitch. So I'm thinking that manifest piece, I don't know if that feels elementary and middle school. I don't know.
Why?
100% agree with you.
Let's hear it. Millburn exists to create a culture and community of learners that inspires and empowers all students to enrich our world.
Exactly, change the meaning of the world.
No, you're manifesting there, but forget it.
I literally just took words from everybody and like.
You made our own. You just saying community to world and then all. We could have done like 45 minutes ago.
I'm telling you, Kristen and I changed 2 words from the first one.
Can you do that again? Can you do it again?
All right, who wants to keep our mission statement answer?
No, it doesn't at all. It doesn't at all, at all.
I like it.
Yeah,
It's all,
okay,
it's fun.
it switched around some of the words.
Yeah.
So our old one was, it has a lot of the same one, which is just a little different. Our old one was, Millburn exists to create a culture of learning that inspires and empowers students to enrich our community. This one is, Millburn exists to create a culture and community of learners that inspires and empowers all students to enrich our world.
I 80%.
We got rid of the word.
Why change it? We don't have like
Can we
We just
no
have
word
community
diversity?
here.
We don't do diversity.
We don't have diversity.
We do
We
not,
really don't.
we can throw it in whoever. and
Mine's
start
that
it up.
person, I'm sorry. That's the stuff like brain. I'm sorry.
Do it, can you say, I'm sorry, can you say it again?
Find a way
I mean,
to add
we could say,
in mindset and diversity. And then we'll be.
No, we took academics out. Oh, no.
Yeah, that's the class.
Otherwise, let's not change it. Same thing.
those animals.
That's what I said. I'm like, why change it?
Okay.
All students. At what point does municipal?
Right, so, Millburn exists to create a culture and community of learners that inspires a diverse mindset and empowers all students to enrich our world.
Okay, diverse learners or diverse? It's totally not, what is it? We still are talking about.
You guys have mindset.
Okay, so you said you like the old one. This one's the same.
Like I said, if we're not gonna do
Oh.
it, well, then why change it?
Yeah, that was like, then the old one didn't pop up.
And at least the old one's shorter.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's so long, it's already done, and kind of maybe then. That, right, I think like.
So we're gonna end this session for tonight.
We're so close. No,
What is here?
Because it's getting late. We have to finish tomorrow. So what we'll do is if there's some volunteers who would like to, either stay tonight later and wordsmith or wordsmith it for the next meeting. That would be great. So if anybody would like to do that. Are there any volunteers? Continue working.
What is this guy?
next meeting.
We can do it at the next, like
Yeah.
30 minutes before the next meeting. So you start
Is that when?
27, meet at 6:30 and work.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're interested in wordsmithing this for the next, at the next meeting, 6:30 on the 27th. Be group, let's see how far we can get. We don't have to solve it. All right. Sound good?
Sound good.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
So we still have a board meeting.
Yep.
So. If you want to stick around, you can.
I'm looking right up when how I got to the mock up. Okay. You're talking about, just so that we can work. together.
Yep, so we have someone.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yes. No. I just really want to change to all schools. Oh.
Well, that's the.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm getting there.
I'm getting there Wednesday night.
Thursday.
Wednesday. So I'm doing the Thursday morning.
I'm Thursday night.
It's almost the same thing. She was saying about.
Mr. President, let's move this meeting.
Yeah, and all these guys.
Yep.
Let's have this meeting along.
Moving the meeting. Going.
Hurry up. We want to go home. Where's my stuff? Uh-oh, we're in trouble. We scared them all away. All right, vision statements. FOIAs.
Okay, so the FOIAs are posted. That's all you need to know. What?
Whoa. We have any idea who that civical CEO is?
Yes, I don't know who they're, that's a company that does FOIAs. So there's a FOIA industry.
Yeah, I looked them up, I didn't see that.
Yeah. I don't.
Okay. Future agenda items.
Okay. Future agenda items, vision statement, mission statement, value statements. Approve the truth and taxation notice. Levy hearing on the truth and taxation, that's gonna be December 11th. The calendar, which will be approved in January, but I'll provide the feedback at the next meeting. They'll close the thought exchange on Thursday. Audit presentation, school maintenance project grant approval at the next meeting. We have to get that before December 1st, and then bus lease approval.
Superintendent report.
Okay, the only thing I have to report is that I had a meeting with our legislators today, local legislators with a few superintendents, just to talk while they're in between sessions here, just to open up those lines of communications. What we want them to do is when they're passing a bill or thinking about a bill or looking at a bill, before they vote on it, give us a call to say, how's this going to impact your school? And so we're trying to open up those lines of communications. We had a couple of ideas that we threw out to them. They threw out ideas to us. You know, it's good for us to understand what they're going through too as legislators and how their world works, and they have to get elected. They have to respond to their constituents as well. So we all understand that, and it was a really good conversation. So I appreciated that.
Business office report.
The only thing to add, just going back to the bus lease approval, I had a bus bid Friday, for our 4 little buses, 2 wheelchair buses. So I'm going through the information, the specs, just making sure everything is aligned, present that in the next board meeting, for approval on leases for the little buses and 2 wheelchair buses.
Board reports.
Yes, I went to Donuts with Grown-ups.
Oh.
Wednesday. It was great. Wonderful, epic people running stuff, the show, and lots of happy parents and excited children. You know, they only have one.
That's I had my kid's birthday over the weekend, and he invited like 1 million people. Not literally, but like 23, 25, all Millburn kids. And I wanted to comment on how polite all of them were and how courteous all of them were. Like, these were some of his friends I've never met. They were just other Millburn students, and they were all awesome. And I just think that's pretty reflective of what happens here. So kudos to Millburn. And Millburn parents.
And it might have something to do with the parents too, but
Yeah.
I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Walshire and his team today for the veterans ceremony and assembly. My husband's a Corps veteran, so it's always fun for my kids to show off their dad, and it's just really great what you all do and how you celebrate. So from a military family, it's very appreciated, and my kids really do enjoy that.
excellent.
I took place in the Battle of the Grades for Epic. I'm not disclosing which grade I supported, but it was a nice event. And I also came and did the parent-teacher conferences. The teachers were professional. I do have to say, I felt like the middle school system was a lot like speed dating. But it was an interesting time, and I sat down and was able to talk with all of the kids' teachers. So it was a very good chance to meet.
Yeah, awesome.
I'll second what John was saying about, I kind of felt rushed during the parent teacher conferences. You know, the teachers are trying to disseminate this information, and they're trying to get through as many people as they can, but in both of them, it's like we're 7, 8 minutes over our time, and there's another family waiting to come in. I don't know if there's assigning more time for that, because I feel confident, like if it's just a one-way thing of information where the teacher's giving it, done it in an email, kind of supposed to be like conversation.
Epic also did the Halloween thing at the middle school.
Yep.
Anybody, if they're still listening, Epic can always use volunteers. They do great work.
Yes.
Absolutely. Winter Wonderland coming up.
Okay. Any other board reports? There is no closed session, so
Motion to adjourn.
there we go.
Second.
You're waiting for that one.
All in favor?